All right, so this is going to be a Transformers finance video. Haven't done one in a while, but this was kind of born out of what's been going on recently in the Transformers world in terms of the release of some unique Transformer product and how it affects other Transformer product and its long-term value. Let's talk about Shattered Glass, specifically the Hasbro Pulse exclusive line, potentially retail, still up to debate. The recent release of the shipping of the Shattered Glass Blurr, what's been happening with the market of the 2008 Botcon Shattered Glass set, and all the numbers in relation to that. A lot of interesting movement going on here, and it's a good topic to talk about because it also gives people a good idea of the future of the value of Transformer product in general, regardless of numbers or demand. So let's take it back. Let's go back in time a little bit. Botcon 2008, that was the debut of Shattered Glass. We had the box set and all the crazy stuff going on with it. And then you had the individual sets on the side, and you had stuff like Shattered Glass Blurr. And Shattered Glass Blurr was, only at 1,100 of them were made. Now, I want to just cover one thing quickly. The Botcon 2008 Shattered Glass box set, the reason why it goes for so much money is not just because of the demand of the characters, but also because, with the exception of one other Fun Pub set, which was the 2006 Beast Wars set, it is the lowest printed set that exists from Botcon of the Fun Pub era between 2005 and its end in 2016. So you had the box set itself only had 1,150 units. The individual ones, souvenir packs, the 2-packs, each figure only had about 1,100 each of them. And Pete Sinclair's even confirmed that even those numbers, those are the factory numbers that were produced. What happens is they don't even issue all of those 100% out there to the public because they know that someone's going to get two hands on a figure. Someone's going to get a figure with no head. Someone's going to get a figure that's missing missiles. So they keep an extra 50 on the side or so, a baker's dozen, if you will. That was kind of the lingo that they would use. 50 isn't a baker's dozen, but that's here nor there. It's just in case if they have to swap and change because someone got a dud of something. So it's even less than that. It even goes less than that. So already the Botcon 2008 set was very low numbers. Then it had the unique character thing, which I've always said in the Transformer world. When you have a character that only has one figure, one specific figure that matches its identity, all the focus and finance gets funneled into that one figure. For the longest time, Bludgeon had one figure, Thunderwing had one figure, and all of the focus and finance went into that one Pretender shell. And Bludgeon ended up being, loose complete or with the box, a $200, $300 figure. Then, of course, years later pass, we get better Bludgeon figures, and we're still in that pursuit of getting even better Bludgeon figures. And the demand for that original Pretender shell starts to shrink. That just always happens. Now, let's talk about Blurr. So Blurr came out just last week. People started to get it in the mailbox and everything. And some crazy stuff was happening in the finance world of Transformers. Literally, last week, I was watching the price movement of 2008 Shattered Glass Blurs. I was just curious, how are they going to sell now? One of them sold, no joke, 3 bids. And what did it sell for? $31. $31. Something that used to sell for $150 to $200 easily, sometimes $300, $400. $31. The demand has completely dropped. And I imagine similar things are probably going to happen to Goldbug and Starscream and Megatron, because they all have Shattered Glass equivalencies in this brand new line. This probably won't happen to Hot Rod yet. This probably won't happen to, Jazz yet. But it will happen. And even the low numbers that exist of these original figures, because the confirmed numbers that we have here from the box set, let's say, was there was 950 of them that were done in the box set, and then there was 200 that were bagged sets that were sent individually. And again, there's margin of error, like I told you before, and returns and changes, which make that even lower. So it's some crazy stuff. It's some crazy stuff that a figure like Blurr that almost has only 1,000 units in the world, and no one cares because now there's this better shattered glass version based off of the Studio Series 86 mold. And I mean, I totally get it, because that happens all the time in the Transformer world. The crazy thing with the Transformer world, as opposed to a lot of the other toy collecting audiences, and I've had to explain this to like my friends who are big DC collectors or He-Man collectors, I've had to explain to them that, you know, in the Transformer world, there's a lot of people that are just in the pursuit of the best version of said character. And when they get that, they almost feel satisfied and that's it. Where, you know, it's almost as if like if someone in the DC world, if they got like a Hot Toys, you know, Batman, that's it. They're done. They don't need to get a better version of said version of that character. But that never ends with them. They're getting this version, that version. Oh, Todd McFarlane's doing this. Oh, Mattel's doing that. Oh, you know, Spin Master's doing this. They'll constantly be picking up that product. And it's fascinating how with the Transformer world, the second you get like, I mean, I'm kind of curious, where are we going to go from here? Let's say a retail Generation 1 Hot Rod after the Studio Series 86. Where do you go from there? How do you perfect that? And it's something that they could probably revisit in 5 years and hope that just the muscle memory of the fans who did get that product don't have that anymore, and they could put something out of either a higher or, what I'm worried about, lower quality in 5 years, because who knows what the toy world and plastic costs and engineering will be back then. In that moment, But it's very interesting. And I'm looking at just some of the other numbers and how stuff is moving around. And the ones that are staying consistent within the 2008 Shattered Glass is, no surprise, the Hot Rod. You know, no surprise, Hot Rod stays consistent, still has a demand. Why? He doesn't have a modern Shattered Glass yet. But sooner or later, that Studio Series 86 Hot Rod, something's going to come knocking, and we're going to see our black repaint with mustache on it or goatee, and the demand is going to go in the toilet. Much like how I remember back in the day, Henkei Rodimus, the Japanese version of Classics Rodimus. Heck, Classics Rodimus was peaking at like in 2010, he was like peaking at like $90 loose complete. It was nuts how much people wanted just Classics Rodimus at one point. And then the Henkei version was like $150 and everything. Now I'm seeing people sell it for like $50 and no one cares. Like carded Henkei Rodimus, which I still think is a fantastic toy. Love that chrome spoiler, the gold chrome spoiler. But people are asking $50 and no one cares. Like it's just because there's been better stuff that's been put out there. And that's kind of something to keep in mind in the Transformer world. If you have a figure that you feel is worth a lot of money and you're holding on to it because of its value, and you feel like, oh, one day I'll sell it and I'll be able to, like, you know, cash in my chips and get the good money from it. Keep in mind, all it takes is for one better version of that character to come around, and that could totally derail everything. And I mean, again, look, you could just look it up. You don't have to believe me. Go on eBay, look at sold listings, type in Blurr for Shattered Glass Botcon 2008. It is ridiculous what has happened to the price of this character. But it also kind of doesn't surprise me because of what's going on with what Hasbro Pulse put out. So that's just something I just want to talk about, and just to keep in mind, exclusivity of characters and their individuality of releases could very well get affected by other releases down the line of that same version of that character, especially when it's a better version. That's why like stuff like the Transformers animated toy line is holding a lot of its value, because are we ever going to see better versions of those molds or characters? Probably not. I mean, I'd like to be wrong, but the way it's kind of moving, probably not. And that's why those toys will always hold their value, where a lot of those Generation 1 characters that are constantly getting revisited, constantly all the time. Think of someone who like bought MPO1 Optimus Prime Convoy and like, oh, this is the definitive Prime. And then MP10 comes out. And then that's the definitive Prime. And then the MP 3.0 comes out. And then that's the definitive Prime. And then maybe people want the leader class from Earthrise instead. And then that's the definitive Prime. And then who knows what's going to come after that and how it constantly affects the secondary market. Even though, and you could argue, oh, Masterpiece collectors are different than retail collectors. Yeah, that does exist. But they're, it's the same thing. There's the same kind of school of thought in a lot of ways. Think of, version 1 Bumblebee against version 2 Bumblebee and Masterpiece, and how, one kind of derails the other and makes the demand and value go in the toilet. Anyways, just something for people to think about. I like to talk about this, and it was something that was brought to my attention, and I wanted to kind of bring it up. But now the next ones that are going to be coming is that Starscream and the Megatron, shipping out. So I wonder what's going to happen to the market on those two. I'm going to be keeping track of it, and hopefully we could talk about it in the near future if there's some financial movement. But again, here's another Transformer Finance video from the Transformer Slag podcast.